Коллеги, добрый день. Мы снова в эфире осенней
Dear
сессии
colleagues,
форума «Международный
we
день
are
импорта
live.
и
The
экспорта». Меня зовут Павел
autumn
Долгов,
session of the
модератор форума,
Export
вице-президент Ассоциации экспортеров и
Association.
импортеров.
I
И
am the
мы
moderator,
приступаем
representative of the
к достаточно интересной
organization,
секции.
and we're
Секция
starting
называется
an
«Локализация,
interesting
инвестиции,
section,
успех работы
localization and
Российской
investment,
Федерации».
success of
Эта
work
секция
for the Russian
мы
Federation.
запустили в первый раз
We've
ее на
launched
весенней
this
сессии этой
section
весной,
for the
получили
first
положительный
time
отклик
in
от наших
spring,
партнеров
and we
зарубежных, от
gained
торговых
positive
представительств, которые
feedback
в России
from
работают, от
missions that work
нескольких
in Russia,
ассоциаций, и мы решили
from
эту
associations, and
тему
we
развивать
decided
дальше.
to develop this topic.
И я хочу передать слово
And I'd like
модератору
to give the floor to
этой
the
сессии Андрею
moderator of this
Мисюра.
session, Mr. Andrei
Андрей, вам слово,
Misura.
и
The floor
я
is
думаю,
yours.
что эта сессия
And
должна
I
стать одной
believe
из
that
тоже
this
ключевых
session is deemed
по
to be
нашего
one of
форума
the key ones
импорта и
for our
экспорта.
forum for import and export. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, participants, guests, and I'm happy to see everybody here in Zoom and both in YouTube and Facebook Live, etc. And I'd like to mention in particular that most likely better understanding of Russian business climate and the way to build a trustful relationship in Russia with a particular focus with local partners will help in import and export foreign links. And here I'd like to stress that our target audience for discussion today is foreign auditory, our foreign listeners, and if somebody of speakers is ready to speak English, I'd ask you to tell that, and we'll provide simultaneous interpretation into Russian. In the context of problems we'd like to reveal, I'd like to note from my side that the question of how to build the stimulus system for our foreign partners who probably once imported something in Russia, who probably were not successful enough in Russia because of trust deficit, for example, because of not understanding regulatory climate, because of not understanding the federal structure, or probably a mental factor. And here we'd like to focus on that today. Let me introduce our speakers today. We have Akulin Kilya, the representative of Kaliningrad region, Nadezhda Zueva, a representative of Corporation for Development Novosibirsk region, Nikita Alexandrov, head of Moscow Office for Cooperation of Development ENEC, Siberia, Outral Layer, head of Lex Alliance, Oksana Yevdokimova, head of the service company Prospectus, and Marta Satoe, head of the Committee for Association of Exporters and Importers for Work with Indonesia, also advisor to for the Indonesia ambassador in Russia, Olga Kamnova, head of development regional investment activity of Tambov region, Teletokur importer, representative of Dalai Lama in Russia and other nearby countries, Supreme Lama of Kalmykia Republic, and Ilya Zavalev, head director and co-founder of HPBS company, the company aimed at better understanding of SG regulation, SG consulting. I am Andrei Misura, head of Eurasian office of the Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, MSME, CCII, and partner of the technological hub HAC Tech Capital Group. I'm happy to give the floor to the first speaker, Mr. Ilya. The floor is yours. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Do you hear me? Yes, we do. Good afternoon. You must have heard of Kaliningrad region. I'd like to tell briefly about us and our conditions for business. First of all, I'd like to stress that recently we've had good news. We're in top 10 best economic zones in the world, eighth place, and it's a very great honor for us to be in one row with Singapore in 2021. I think this news has been on the headlines. What is Kaliningrad Oblast, Kaliningrad region? A bit more than 1 million people of population. Do you see my presentation? Yes, we do. We are in distance with the main presentation. Baltic Sea separates us, and it's our particular feature. We're in Europe, and for trade with European partners, many European companies use our region as the platform because it's too close to European customers. Kaliningrad region is quite plain, in contrast to Novosibirsk or Omsk, where there are million population cities, but in Kaliningrad Oblast, people are spread quite equally, and there are clusters and industrial parks as well. More than 10,000 people a year we have of migration, and there is a great need of our graduates. People stopped moving from Kaliningrad regions because there are investors, and cost of labor growth. Because of our conditions, we have demand for qualified people, qualified specialists, and there is even a fight for that. As for our special economic zone, you have main numbers in the screen. More than 260 residents we have in our special economic zone. As for our conditions, one of main advantages, I think, is 7.6 of payment for labor for 10 years, 0% of property tax and 0% for income tax for 6 years, and after that 10%, 1.5% and 10% accordingly. What is a resident of the economic zone? They're divided by categories by grade. If it's 62, 63, 72, up to 1 million rubles is for 3 years. For healthcare, OQED 86, 10 million rubles. Industry, agriculture and tourism, 50 million rubles, and other industries, 150 million rubles. How to become the resident? You'll have to provide documents, the standard procedure, and I'd not like to dwell your attention to this procedure. I think it's common. Who are our residents? After tour, as you know, Mirador company, right now we have particular focus on boxes, negotiations with IT giants, and we cannot say who it is because it's for their sake, but it's good for them not only to come to our region, but also to bring every employee here, because we compensate money for bringing employees here, about 300,000 rubles for moving for their houses, and about 250,000 rubles for relocation for transport. We have special administrative region you must have heard about. There are the two like that, Oktyabrski and Russky Islands. More than 50 residents of Oktyabrski Island. It's a kind of Russian offshore, and everybody must have heard of that because representative of government for the president has said that there are plans to make the same at Kuril Islands. Here, what I'd like to focus on is how far we are from European capitals about export. 550 kilometers to Berlin, 280 to Warsaw. We use a railway, two side European and Russian railways, standard railways, and Kaliningrad port we have, and we're close to other European countries as well. As for railway roads, there is Chernihovsk enterprise at the east of our region, where trains are changed by containers from one platform to another in order to make this customs procedure faster. By containers, we make it faster to bring the cargoes to the European clients. How we bring it to Shenzhen, China in 8 days only. When there was Mr. Lehanov in place, it was up to 10 days. But I think it's a great result because with a container, we cross the whole country, the whole Russia, and it's fantastic. I'd like to stop on the game zone. There are not so many of them in Russia, and we have the game zone with hotels, eco park, entertainment zone, golf club, and there are two investors as far as I know. And industrial parks, we have 2-hour industrial parks, Chernihovsk and Khrabrovo, where residents are brought, and we also have private industrial parks, Eco Baltic, with farm industry production, and GS, where microelectronic products are produced and everything related to it. As a Kaliningrad government, we've been developing a rebate program for cinema, where we give them 20% back, meaning costs for cinema production. And because of that, cinema and remakes are made more often in Kaliningrad region. For example, it was a film Tsoi. Two institutions, we have Baltic Federal University and Kaliningrad State Technical University, who prepare personnel. Investors who come to us are very interested in personnel preparation, and they cooperate with university, meaning specialty they need in order to have a qualified workforce by the time they launch their production. Dear colleagues, I'm done, and if somebody has questions, I'm ready to answer. Thank you so much. There is a particular style of this report, improvised one, and here I think, yes, you can switch off the presentation. Yes. There are some questions I think we should mention. For example, if we put stimulus, why is there Kaliningrad, which has a particular place in Russia, a logistic penetration, geographical position, and opportunity for different types of transportation, of getting connected to logistic ecosystems. It is very exciting, but why not Baltic states? Why not Belarus? Why not Poland? It's also close in order to create additional stimulus. From the eastern point of view, I'm a representative of the Indian Trade and Commerce Industry Chamber, and we need a particular understanding of stimulus for the environment. As for environment, we see that there is university culture of development that is quite strong. European characteristics and conservative understanding you also have. But what are advantages from the point of view of environment? Why Kaliningrad is so clear in Russia? Why people who come into Western and Central Europe from the point of view of logistics, why is it logical? It is logical for them, of course, but why not countries that are close to Kaliningrad? What stimulus would you mention for them? Our investors are interested in two directions in particular. Work for export. There are some countries, European companies, the French one, and I'll not tell its name because I don't have any right till a particular moment. And from France, they bring part of their production to Kaliningrad to lower costs. Our salaries come in rubles, not in euro, and if somebody needs to bring something from to port of Kaliningrad or to port of France, it's quite similar, and cost of production is quite similar. And when they produce if they produce their materials in Kaliningrad, they do not pay VAT tax. I think it is quite a slogan and understandable approach that makes us understand why this region is interesting for our partners. Thank you so much. I'd like to give the floor to Nadezhda Zuyeva, representative of Agency for Innovative Investment for Novosibirsk region. Am I audible, dear colleagues? Yes, Andrei, I'm happy to welcome all participants of this conference, and I'd like to thank organizers to give us opportunity to take part in this conference. Russia has a great territory with many subjects,
and each of this region is unique and unique in
region
its
is
own
unique
way. Every region has got its advantages
with advantages
that allow to develop this or that ways of economic activity. In my report, I will try not to stop in detail on all features of Novosibirsk region, but to tell you about those investors who have already chosen our region to develop their business, since investors and successful projects that are implemented on the territory of our region are the key approval of investment attractiveness of our territory. While choosing the region, investor estimates a big complex of factors. This is the export market, logistic opportunities, infrastructure, some measures of governmental support, and it looks at the attitude of the local government to investors. That is why, as a corporation of development, we cannot impact all the parameters, but what we can do, we can form a convenient environment for joining our territory for the investor. In order investor not to have severe problems while it comes to our region. In order the investor could find a good platform for implementation of his project that matches all his demands. That is why, at the moment, I will try to demonstrate you a presentation. Here it is. Do you see the presentation? I hope. Yes, we see it perfectly well. Thank you. Okay, our agency, it exists more than 15 years. And out of our experience, a good infrastructure is still a key parameter for choosing the territory for developing this or that project. Because even if we have all different pieces of jigsaw, but there will be no prepared platform, there will be no opportunity to provide necessary infrastructure to the investor, the project cannot be implemented on this territory. That is why in our region, we pay special attention to developing of investment platforms. That is why at the moment, there are 5 industrial parks in Novosibirsk region, 1 industrial technical park, and 2 territories of advanced social economic development. They provide special preferences for investors. Also, I'd like to point out that our agency is making a separate list of such platforms in our region. At the moment, it amounts to 650 companies and platforms, starting from the land territories and up to some complexes inside Novosibirsk. And one of the greatest investment platform, is industrial and technical park. Its territory amounts to more than 1,000 hectares. It's not only the hugest park beyond the Urals, but it's one of the greatest, of the biggest parks on the territory of the Russian Federation. It has got all required infrastructure regarding the transport infrastructure, all necessary utilities, and we try to keep on developing the transport infrastructure. So soon enough, we plan to develop a transport hub in order residents could better organize their logistics flows, the flows of their companies. Besides, we are constructing a new power substation that will increase the capacity of our park. Besides, it's located 6 kilometers from the airport of Novosibirsk and not far from the city itself. Besides, the railway road passes not far from our park, the railroad that connects Europe and Asia. And all these factors allow us to develop the projects, both logistic and industrial projects. We have 25 companies who are residents of this industrial and technological park. Among them, there are foreign companies like Italian holding Arianec, PepsiCo and Mars. And the general amount of investments is more than 70 billion rubles, and 40 billion rubles have been invested by the investors to the development of their projects. And I would like to highlight several successful projects on the territory of our region. This is a PepsiCo company. It announced about their intentions to implement their project in 2019. They planned to produce salty snacks. The amount of investments more than 11 billion rubles. The amount of employees, 600. And besides the construction of the plant, in parallel, they were launching the program that is targeted at provision of this plant with the local resources. So they planned to organize some seminars for those companies who are planning to plant potato in the region, and the seminars for protection of different plants while they're growing. And this company will be the one that will completely recycle all the side materials of their production. Company will launch 2 first production trains pretty soon, but the total amount of production trains will amount to 6. Another case is Alutech company. They are constructing a logistics complex that will produce some gates and other reloading machinery. The complex will work for the whole Siberia and Far East. The amount of investment is more than 1 billion rubles, more than 230 employees. I'd like to point out also that thanks to our agency, both companies last year received tax preferences for implementation of their projects on the territory of our region. Next year, we are planning to launch the whole complex of Alitech. But I have to point out that some industrial platforms are not always ready, and they do not always match the demands of investors. And in this case, we have to adjust pretty fast, find other ways of localization. And another good example of this work is Nestle company that will organize production of pets food. This is the first project of this type in Siberia. The investment amounts to more than 10 billion rubles. By 2026, their turnover will be extremely increased, and more than 250 employees will be able to work at this company. The project of this company became not only like additional investments to our region, but it became an incentive to develop new industrial platform, because that territory of land that we chose for development of this company will be available for other residents as well. That is why because on that territory we are going to develop another technological park. Not only Nestle will come to this territory, and the infrastructure will be completely built until the end of next year. I would like to finish with a slide that demonstrates main advantages of Novosibirsk region for implementation of foreign companies, of foreign projects. First is a very good transport hub. We have access to some Asian markets, and since our logistics system has been highly developed recently, the transport expenses have decreased by 20–30% than in other regions. Another advantage is the big amount of highly qualified workers, professionals, employees. And it's important to say that despite their high qualification, the cost of the workforce is pretty low. If we compare with other Siberia regions, it's 9% less, 9% lower than in other Siberian regions. That is why foreign companies can save money on salaries. Like in other regions, we have elaborated significant measures of support of foreign investors. We have created specialized platforms, technological and industrial parks. And of course, on behalf of our agency, as the Corporation of Investment Development, we try to support the investor on all stages of implementation of their projects. That is why, if you have any questions, please, I'm ready to answer. Nadezhda, thank you so much for such a detailed report and brief at the same time. Yes, I will have some questions. I was pleasantly impressed with Novosibirsk. I have recently been to Novosibirsk, and based on my own experience, I can confirm that with logistics, it's really good. But regarding the logistic chains, sometimes the key point is the management system. we talk about Nestle company, for example. Let me set one example. They have certain plans of strategic investments, and they are present in your region. And at the same time, we talk about Novosibirsk. It's about transport hub of different flows, and we take two chocolates. We buy Kazakhstan chocolate that is called Kazakhstan, and buy a chocolate called KitKat. I think that for me, as a citizen of Moscow, the second KitKat chocolate seems to me cheaper. But if we look at the price, the chocolate called Kazakhstan is cheaper than KitKat. The same things I saw if looking at other goods, if we talk about federal retailers. That is why any big country and country with federal structure, it has to have a good regional expertise. That is why a question to you, like to a regional expert, how is this strategy integrated? These are both intellectual competences and those logistic links already created previously. How are they integrated, and is this competence of your companies, of your workers, is in demand? And what about your relationship with foreign partners, and are they ready to listen to locals? I would like to say the following, that we are communicating pretty much both with Russian and foreign investors, and we point out that when a foreign partner comes to Russia, first of all, they locate their plant in the central part of Russia. And as soon as the project is already implemented and works well, only then they go to the east. And considering that, since we have some advantages, good position, logistic position, big number of employees, pretty often companies come to Novosibirsk because we are the only region that is on the way from the west to the east and back regarding the transportation of all goods. That is why pretty always foreign companies consider Novosibirsk and Siberia, and delivering products to Siberia and Far East is not always economically profitable. That is why it's easier and it is more profitable to construct a new plant in Siberia. And in this case, we try to provide any possible support. We find a land territory and we consult a potential investor about all legal issues. We organize the meetings with local authorities because we understand that for foreign partners, it is very important when they see our interest, especially on behalf of the head of the region, of governor of the region. And that is why companies take decision much faster when they meet with the governor. This case happened with Nestle company. It is interesting. So they are listening to you, they are building this relationship, and these are bilateral relationship. This is like a dialogue, not a monologue. First of all, you receive incoming information, then you adapt it for current conditions of your region. Okay, we have two options. This is the incoming flow of investors, and those investors who we try to attract on the territory of our region, because we think that they could develop their projects pretty effectively. or just join some cooperation links, cooperation chains. So the dialogue is, of course, bilateral. Thank you so much. I would like to ask you separately to send us English version of your presentation, and our guest can find English materials. We will provide the link upon your request. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for an interesting information data. Now we know Novosibirsk region a little bit better. And now I'd like to give a floor to not a representative of the region, but to a representative of our professional community from point of understanding of those problems and those issues that push away some investors. I mean, it's not a secret that Russian regulatory environment is considered to be pretty complicated. And it is complicated not just because of complicated legislation, but because of a very complicated way how to construct the relationship, legal relationship, in order to localize legally on the territory of Russia. That is why the floor goes to Arthur Lehr, head of Lex Alliance. Good afternoon, colleagues.
Да,
Do you
конечно.
hear me well? Yes, we hear you well. You are going to speak in English or in Russian? In Russian. I will speak in Russian. Okay. Colleagues, I hope we have touched a very interesting topic from the point of view of localization of some companies in certain regions. Novosibirsk and Kaliningrad told about their pros, but we understand that one of the most important problems is a too complicated Russian legislation system. Local investors and local entrepreneurs are very hard to understand all the details of Russian legislation. And if we start talking about foreigners, they worry much higher because the measures at the moment, we try to reduce the barriers both for Russian and for foreign entrepreneurs, but still the legislation is pretty complicated. That is why it's very important, like a representative of Novosibirsk, sorry for interruption. It's okay, we didn't lose you. Please keep on going.
Момент, что как они привлекают, да, к себе инвесторов, но при этом действительно мы часто тоже с этим сталкиваемся.
Pretty often we face that at the stage of attracting the investor, governors also participate in the attraction of foreign investor, but then there are some issues with the support of foreign investor. And we face this problem pretty often because the companies like Rostechnadzor, prosecutor office, they provide a huge pressure on the investors. That is why we are developing and we are working with some legal issues in order to facilitate the process for foreign partners. Of course, when you chose the place where to settle down, where investor wants to invest or entrepreneur wants to settle down to stay, I would like to highlight some points that are extremely important. If we talk about investor, this is the point of selection and the way of investment. This is a topic that is highly interested for many people, how to do that. The most popular is creation of co-companies. We create like a Russian community, Russian company, and the representative of this Russian company may have a headquarters in abroad. When we say that we launch, that we implement a representative office here in Russia of a foreign company, there are many details in terms of tax legislation. In this case, we lose many resources that decrease the tax expenses. So anyhow, from the point of view of bankruptcy legislation, there are big discussions at the moment. Big discussions are ongoing, and some loans of investors. I mean, for example, investor created a co-company, and then it invests through providing some loans, and instead of paying money to the organizer of the co-company, they just remove him from the list of companies and from the list of taxpayers. And many foreign partners do not understand pretty well this procedure. Okay, we invested, the company has broken down, and we cannot receive our money back. This is the problem that some foreign partners face at the moment when they invest into a company that later get bankrupt. The representative of Kaliningrad region talk about the transport VAT. For example, French manufacturers, they are pretty smart. The French manufacturer in Kaliningrad region has reduced its tax load. And I would like to talk also about intellectual property. Yesterday, I was with a presentation in the Technopolis. And to be fair, I don't understand completely. Some manufacturers come to the Russian Federation, they start to develop a certain brand, but they do not register their trademarks. They do not register their inventions and all the range of their assets. And that is why in Russia, like illegal competitiveness is so highly developed in Russia. When some companies see that a certain company is successful in a certain field of industry, they start, and other companies just start registering another trademarks of this or that company. And then they say that we're using your trademark for example, 10 years. And at this stage, at this moment, foreign companies face with problems of such type. So it seems to me that registering your trademarks is highly important and no need to save money on that. I listened to representatives from Kaliningrad and Novosibirsk. It's really good that some conditions are being created at the moment in those regions regarding tax load, regarding expenses load. I mean, the development of infrastructure hubs, transport hubs. So we're looking forward to new investors, new foreign investors on the territory of the Russian Federation. And we are always ready to provide you assistance and consult you at the stage of launching your project, implementation of your project on the territory of the Russian Federation. A couple of remarks. First of all, lawyer in Russia is more than just a lawyer. And of course, this is how we can increase the credibility And in terms of understanding the local business environment, the second point that I would like to highlight, I watch another process. Maybe since we have some technological culture, when people are ready to register their IPR, maybe it is related to the fact that people understand that only like that the security of their business will be estimated. But sometimes we have a worry when after you pack the package of assets, the package of intellectual property becomes a target of sometimes fraudster or bad investor. And the third remark, and I would like to ask you, there are a lot of investment projects like B2B and like B2G, business to government, when the company becomes a resident of Technopark or a special economic regional zone. And in this term, we talk about a component with like Russian presence, if it's possible to say so. What we call a group of companies or a leading company, managing company, sometimes they're located in another place, in another region. So managing company or the unit of the company that controls the IPR package is located out of the Russian Federation. Is this normal? Is this okay? Do we think it is normal, or we do not think that it is normal, and we have to do something with that? We need to cope with that. And then we need to advise something to local and federal authorities and government. And the second point, is the case of such type often or not? And the third question is, what do you think? Does the localization develop at the moment on the territory of the Russian Federation? Very good questions. I'm not going to answer 1, 2, 3. I will try to provide one single answer. First of all, when you introduced me, you didn't say that I'm a head of legal committee of the Association of Importers and Exporters. That is why negotiating with authorities is what I do on regular basis. That is why we face cases like that pretty often. One thing, when we create a branch on the territory of the Russian Federation, branch of a foreign company, and then we don't have any problems. The question is only about paying dividends, which is pretty important due to double tax load according to Russian legislation. From a legal point of view, it's completely legally. But if we talk about state corporation, governmental corporation, then we have to consider each particular case, because any governmental company doesn't have a whole package of IPR assets. And then we need to understand whether the creation of such a branch is legal or not. And what about the paying dividends? And what about the spreading of those dividends? If we talk about intellectual property, its number grows. If we talk about trademarks, the growth is really significant. But if we talk about authors' rights, they are not they're still not registered so often. That is why we negotiate with different communities and different non-governmental companies. We have a very big problem. In Russia, nobody credit, nobody gives loans, no banks give loans for intellectual property, for development of intellectual projects. On the territory of the Russian Federation, this issue is still extremely vital because banks do not approve the loans if you want to develop your intellectual project, intellectual property. So I hope I answered your question pretty clear. Thank you so much. Everything that helps to the business in Russia helps to the business in Russia.
Видеть, как всегда, и рад в том числе твоим усилиям, которые направлены.
Yes, happy to see you as always, and glad that you make these efforts, your receptivity towards Russian business environment. Thank you. One more speaker I'm ready to introduce as industry voice, and we'll talk not from the point of view of representatives of regions, but from representatives of directly industry business. It's Oksana Yevdokimova, but right now I'd like to listen to a regional understanding of how we can find this balance point of this point what the industry wants and what regions see. So I give the floor Nikita Alexandrov, head of Moscow office of Yenisei Siberia Development Corporation, one more region. Thank you so much, Andrei. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm really glad to take part. Do you see my presentation? Do you hear me? It's all good, thank you. I'd like to tell about transportation and logistic hub that we implement in Krasnoyarsk airport. And we understand that Krasnoyarsk is a successful and good point for developing businesses as inside Krasnoyarsk conglomeration, as in Siberia Federal District. We've been developing our project based on 3 regions, Krasnoyarsk, Khakassia, and Tuva, because the corporation I represents not one region, it's unique. It represents all the 3 regions. We see perspective in developing transportation and logistic hub near Krasnoyarsk airport. It's multimodal and can use both aviation, transportation, and roads that are commonly used. We're also planning to build a railway because demand for this railway transportation is great. We have preliminary declaration on intentions signed with a number of great transportation companies. We have a complex investment project which is part of industrial projects to be realized in Krasnoyarsk region, Khakassia, and Tuva in years to come. It's Nornickel, Rusal, Rosneft projects in the Arctic region, and they, or many of them, are planning to locate the production and accumulation basis on the basis of Krasnoyarsk Airport Logistic Hub. So right now, Krasnoyarsk has relocated its resources. There is a passenger hub of airport in this airport. And we do not only talk about this project, but we've relocated the road that unites two airports in one logistic hub. It's International Krasnoyarsk Airport. And the second airport ensuring regional and inter-regional transportation. I see Krasnoyarsk of the future in the framework of master plan, and we see that cargo transportation in the central part of the city is getting smaller. In legislation, we've been regulating it, so transportation and logistic hub in the airport is 35 kilometers away from the city, and so it's a good point for developing business in Krasnoyarsk and for scaling it up to the whole Siberia. I'd like to show the slide with a master plan of transportation and logistic hub and a slide where we mention companies already with us. Transportation container, shipment, Peskot, Evrosiba, Rosneft, Airflot, and Durhan complexes that is in the process of signing the declaration. There have been several hubs in the conference, and I'm grateful to organizers for invitation. Right now, we've been searching for potential residents. In 2022, we're planning to open a special economic zone, and in 23-25, we're planning to implement this project in the framework of Logistic Hub. I'll not dwell on details of the special economic zone to be opened for economic conditions for more intensive development of residents in the future hub, because I think you already know many of them. Thank you so much, Andrei. I have finished my report, and I'll be happy to answer questions and be present at the conference, listen to other speakers. Thank you so much, Nikita. I'd like to ask you about the Arctic. It's evident that Arctic is the strategic priority, not only for Russia, but also for other countries. Moreover, number of stakeholders in this game is increasing. And what is your prediction concerning the Arctic? Is this the trend from above? How will it be accepted by companies? Why do I pose this question? I understand your vision of the future. The region is based on some kind of strategic plans, and it's glad to see when there is the platform B picture. It's not situative reaction. It's when you have plans in advance, when you understand the situation, and you can be visionary. But the companies present in your hub are Russian in mentality, in good, bad, and neutral senses of this word. Productive business cultures. How will these plans develop? And how ready are you for cross-cultural challenge? Within the context of this prediction of increasing number of stakeholders to whom you could be interesting. Thank you. I'd like to scale up your question. You'd like to ask in the context of the Arctic region. Will there be more projects in the Arctic region, you'd like to ask? Of course, there will be more projects there, but interest towards the Arctic is exposed not only by foreign governments, but also by research centers, companies, from the point of view of exploring the resource bases you have, meaning the Arctic. more likely you'll have to communicate with a particular number of stakeholders that differ from your partners and potential residents right now in the economic zone you are planning. How ready are you for that, and how this prediction is positive? Will it not be a cultural shock for you? We believe that this prediction will not be a cultural shock for us, and I will explain why. Even now, the Arctic is living through the first stage of its new industrial development, with the global infrastructural projects there. It's Rosneft projects, North Star projects, not only Russian ones. There is a certain percentage of participation in the projects by Vostok Oil, Asian companies. 25 to 30% of strategic, as we think, Russian vector are foreign investments in these Russia of the future projects. Actually, it's what I'm asking about. There'll be more Asian participants, and those participants present there in the region have Russian background. They are ready for the environment. But if we have participants who did not have any experience of communicating but have a natural interest towards the region, I think we're considering that, and towards the end of the month, we're having the show with presenting opportunities of the region for colleagues in Singapore. These are Asian funds, different companies, in some industries that we've chosen. So here, we're trying not to stop only in the Russian market from the point of view of attracting the investment. We also consider our foreign partners. It's so good to hear such predictions and warm words. Thank you so much for your comprehensive answer, and we'll be very happy to have more such effective helpers, not only in the Arctic, but in other parts of Russia. Yes, and salutations from Krasnoyarsk region. Thank you. And now I'd like to pass the floor to Oksana Yevdokimova. We'll speak from the point of view of industry, problems, opportunities, successful cases that Oksana had a good opportunity to see or to participate in from the point of view of business.
Mike, please.
Yes, hello, Andrei. Hello, colleagues. Do you hear me right?
Yeah, you're
yeah, yes, I can speak English or I can speak Russian. It's up to you. You will decide. So, no problem. So?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Yeah, please, English, right? Okay, yes, thank you. Dear colleagues, dear friends, events participants, I'm glad to welcome you here in this at this wonderful and useful event, both for foreign businesses and for Russian ones. I am very thankful to the organizers and especially to the Export and Imports Association, which gives me this excellent opportunity to share my experience and to speak English here as well. So I would like to show my presentation today and share my experience on the business development of foreign companies here in Russia. Just a moment, I will switch. Yeah. Yes, can you see? Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes, so
Yes.
clear.
Yeah. So today we will just speak about the companies largest the foreign companies business localization, and I will share my experience. Do you see the second slide, right? Yeah. Okay. Let me introduce myself. My name is Oksana Evdokimova, and I'm an expert in the business development of foreign companies in Russia. Why am I an expert? I will just explain you. I have 10 years experience in multinational companies. I have been working in the multinational companies, international companies, with a strong focus on the business development areas, interest in business development of the foreign projects in Russia. Then after the significant experience in multinational companies, I continued my career, let's say, as just freelance, let's say, or independent just business development manager, and continued with the foreign projects, with the foreign companies which wanted to enter the Russian market and wanted to develop their business here in Russia. It was different companies from different segments and different industries. I have the executive MBA degree. I graduated from the Stockholm School of Economics. 10 years ago, I organized or established the Prospect Rus agency, which helps me to scale my business, because we have very many projects, and to scale the business, I need the team. So Prospect Rus company is the business development agency which helps or assists the foreign companies to develop their business in Russia. I also have practical experience because I'm a partner in several running businesses at just in beauty industry and educational industries, just segments, let's say. And I'm also a member of the examination commission at Stockholm School of Economics. So today we are talking about the foreign business localization in Russia. And I would like to examine this subject a little bit deeper, not just from the point of the production localization in Russia, but also from we will start from the market entry. So what is the business localization? Let's a little bit think of it. Business localization is, first of all, it's product localization. It's adapting or modifying product or service for a given language or culture or region. It's also marketing localization. It's a unique market approach a company takes to address purchasing habits, customer behaviors, and cultural differences. And for sure, it's business model localization, the model of entering the market, and further localization strategy. So I will just touch upon each of these areas, because I think it's very important for the foreigners which want to enter the Russian market. So next slide, just this slide will give you a very clear idea how to be prepared to enter the market and how to develop your business in the foreign market. First of all, I want to share with you just my experience. When I've got very many requests from many foreign companies which want to enter the Russian market. And when I ask the question to the management of the company or to the owners of the companies, the question like, if you have done any market analysis, if you really understand the Russian market, if you really understand the customer behavior, and if you are sure that your products fit the consumer habits here, how do you think, which question I usually receive? Yes, you are right. I receive perceive that we don't need all this information. We just want to find a partner or distributor here. But it doesn't work like this. If you want, if you have this strategy to just like it says, you know that it says, if you want to organize the business which you won't be able to sell, you shouldn't do it at all. That's why I also just have the message for the foreign companies. If you don't want to just develop your localization strategy in Russia, you shouldn't enter this market because it has no sense. That's why we just that's why I also want to share, I'll give you one example. Several years ago, we ran a very beautiful project, let's say very beautiful. I say it's beautiful because it has very unique product. It was the Italian company which produced very good building materials, very unique building materials, which was really have very superior value proposition. And when we started this project, we have participated in the exhibition. We organized the exhibition. We started to searching for the distributors, and we found out that this product doesn't fit the legal norms in Russia and doesn't fit the consumer's habits. And it was a really problem because the company had to modify the product, and you understand, it required money. It's required just more expenses and more investments as it was predicted before. So to avoid all these mistakes, to avoid all these risks, I want you to look at the localization from different points of view. You should do the market analysis or find a company which just do it for you. You should just localize your product. You should localize your marketing, just communication and marketing just strategy. And you should choose the best business model for your localization interest in the foreign company. Next slide, I will show you, and I think it's quite common for you, that it's the general. I will show the general models of entering the market. And you can see it's quite general standard models. A lot of companies, for example, Italian companies, as you know, they are searching for agents. They are sure that agents, they are the best way for entering the new markets for their businesses. Some companies, they want to present at marketplaces, let's say at local marketplaces, but from abroad, let's say like Experience Ozon Global, right? But you know that it's not quite successful because if to serve the Russian customers from abroad, just via the marketplaces, it has no sense at all. And a lot of companies, they just want to find the exclusive distributor or importer, and then and that's it. They are sure that after finding the distributor importer, they will occupy or they will penetrate the market. And only just a small quantity of companies, the companies which have a really very clear localization strategy, they go further. They just move from the exclusive distributor or importer, they move to the representative office here. They move to the, let's say, private label or OEM, just models of cooperation with local partners. They just move to the joint stock companies. Some companies, they establish the greenfield facilities here in Russia. So actually, it's exactly the localization strategy, how it how it works. But I think you know that the Russian market is not, it's a little bit specific, right? Because the Russian market is not, it doesn't look like the American one, it doesn't look like European one, it has its unique features. And that's why I just, before the starting the project or this, before they working with the customers, starting the cooperation with the potential customers, we look precisely at the market. What I mean, the Russian market is specific and unique due to geographical, historical, and cultural aspects. For example, but it's a very, how to say, holistic and significant area to examine. But anyway, just I will give you some examples that Russia, it's a huge country. And if you think that one distributor can work and can give you a quite good penetration and quite good coverage, it doesn't work. You should enter all the Russian regions. It's huge country, and the distance, the warehouses, the logistic, you should take all these aspects into consideration. It's also from the point of cultural or mental aspects, the Russians, they don't work like agents. You won't find here the people who just want to work like agents. It doesn't work. Also, from the point of history, let's say that what we know about the business is quite young here, and that's why we don't sometimes we don't just the approaches which are used, or the models which are used in Europe. We will start applying only then, but we don't have any experience yet. Also, from the laws and norms, we are still have customs for sure, and we have boards. And you should know that to transport or to bring the products to Russia, that should cross the board, and the importer should pay the VAT and the custom duties immediately while just the products are crossing the board. And it's also some kind of investment. All these points should be taken into consideration. Governmental policy, yes, you know about the sanction, and very many, let's say, exporters and importers, they are suffering from this kind of policy, but just there is sanction. And we also have the governmental now focus on the import replacement and to the support to the local production. That's why I really was enjoying while listening to the previous speakers that so many regions, so many free economic zones, let's say, they are establishing now just in Russia, and the governmental participation in this kind of development is great, really great. Also, economic development and trends. I will give you my observation. I will share my observation with you that, for example, the national distributors now, their power is declining really. And if you want to find a big distributor, national distributor, federal distributor, you need to have a very unique product with very unique unique selling point. Very just nice price, very competitive price. But do you think how many foreign companies have this value proposition? No, not many. That's why you should just go to the small distributor, or should go directly to the federal retail chains. And also my observation, or not just observation, but also the trends which we just have in Russia, that the federal retailers, they now have their own distributors, and they are just ready to work with the foreign companies directly. That's also a very good sign from one point of view, and from another point of view, the foreign companies should be prepared for this kind of cooperation. So I think that all these aspects, and not all these, because I don't have enough time to just to tell you or to tell you all the examples, or to share just all the aspects of which we experienced, but all these aspects should be taken into consideration. Then the company, then the foreign company, want to enter the market. And we have prepared this kind of model just to show you how we see and how we accompany the project to be successful, which just make him or let this project to be successful on the Russian market. Yes, the company. You can see that there are so many outsourced opportunities in this market. So you can, and I do hope that the aspects which I showed in my previous slide, you are not skeptical about entering the Russian market, because if they can be negative from the point of importing, but they're positive, rather positive for the point of localization, business localization. So you will, in this slide, you can see how to successfully develop your business in Russia if you just FMCG company or just B2B company. It doesn't matter. You can start with exclusive distributor or importer, but I want to draw your attention to the fact that it doesn't work like this, that you will find a distributor at the exhibition and you will sign the contract. No, you should examine thoroughly if this distributor fits your distribution or your business model. I will share one example with you, because just one big company just from UK, they start their business, their cooperation with distributor here in Russia, and they wanted to enter the modern chain, the federal retailers, but this distributor has no opportunities. They has no resources to just, no financial resources, no SKUs, no enough SKUs to convince the buyers in federal retail chains to to start the cooperation with them. So that's not easy. If you think that it's easy and start the communication through LinkedIn or start the communication at the exhibition and start, yes, a lot of distributors in Russia, they're searching for a good product, but it doesn't mean that they just fit your business model. So then we advise you to hire a sales representative, because this guy should control the market, should control your distributor, and should be your eyes and ears on this market, because without it you won't develop just like you want. Third logistic party, I mean here, I will give you one example. At the moment, we are running with just one good project from cosmetic industry. It's also the producer is from UK, and the distributors don't want to work with the product, but the product is really beautiful, but the distributors don't want to work with the product, because they don't find the value chain is not okay. Their margin is not okay, and that's something like that. And we contacted directly. We contacted the cosmetic retailers, and you know what? Just the answer we obtained: yes, we are interested. That's why you just need to find a third party, just logistic operator who will just help you for just small margin to bring your products to Russia and to deliver it to the cosmetic retail chains. And then you can just organize your representative office or legal entity, or it also can be outsourced in Russia, because some companies they give just give you this opportunity. Then you move to private label, because in Russia we have a lot of production facilities which are quite just not expensive products, which will be quite competitive. And then you will establish your greenfield project, let's say, in some free economic zone. This scenario, what we suggest to the foreign company, and we want to have this long-term projects, and we'll be very happy to have such customers or such partners in this market. So in conclusion, I would like to say that Russia is a really great country. It's a really great country for Russians. It's a great country for foreign businesses. And I'm sure that almost just all foreign businesses have chance to develop here, but it depends only on the strategy, how you to formulate it, how you implement it, and what will be your local partner for this implementation. Thank you so much. I think this information was useful for all of you. If you have any questions or requests, I will be happy to answer and to answer and to get your requests. Andrei?
Thank you, Oksana. Let me here extend my thankfulness to our partners of this session, Job for Arabists. This is the company who is helping us a lot in synchronized translation. Right now, both the channels are working pretty well, and we are really grateful for your efforts. Thank you, guys. Oksana, here you had a beautiful example of like squares. Like the deepness of localization has actually 4 degrees, and there are 4 possible options for areas. Let me draw some other examples. Let me be in the same kind of analogy, like squares. We all know that like cognitive square of...
Andrei, sorry, I don't hear you, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now better, sorry.
Good. Here we have like a very a good cognitive model of squares, of what we actually know, and we know that, the so-called knowns, yeah? What we don't know, and we actually don't know that we don't know this. What we know that we don't know, and what we don't know what we don't know, basically the unknown. And here, in most of the cases, when people meet a foreign partner from both the sides, as per my experience, you correct me if your experience is a little bit different, people think that they understand the story. For instance, a Russian guy working with a foreign partner, he thinks that, yes, I got the point. But in most of the cases, it's like this understanding is not there. Or, for instance, a foreign company came to Russia for an exhibition or for a business visit, check the background, and this is a visibility of the so-called understanding. But actually, it's not there. When the company is just not ready, it can be checked. So you can check the like sources, you can check whether they are source ready, whether they are like stuff ready, whether they are units number ready, production wise, or logistical speaking, whatsoever. How do you bridge that gap with that like unknown when people think that they understand Russian, but they actually don't, or vice versa? Because sometimes our Russian partners, they, frankly speaking, have the same trouble.
Okay, you finished, right? Because the noise, it's a little bit just, sometimes I don't hear you. That's why this was the question, right?
Yeah, in short, if people think that they understood each other, but actually they didn't, what you do usually? And this is uncheckable by like number of factors. How do you bridge that gap?
Yes, Andrei, thank you so much for your question. I think you ask this question because you understand the problem, because because then the foreigners come to Russia or come to the exhibition or come to my company, let's say, they are sure that they know everything about the just Russian market, because they absolutely agree, they absolutely sure that they will work here like in Europe. They will find the agent, and the agent will just will make let's say just wonderful miracles for them. And but you see, it's very difficult to establish this bridge, how you just you told because when I start to convince the people that we need to undertake some preparatory steps, let's say, because we are not ready and they are not ready. They should understand it. But I have a risk to lose the customer. That's why we have prepared some kind of checklist. We also work with, let's say, we try to test their business idea, the company's business idea, before they starting the project, and we show everything to their. How to operate. We gather some information before the starting the cooperation to show the customer how we will work and what he knows and what he doesn't know. And after that, we will just proceed. That's something like that. I hope I answered.
Feel yourself not ready. Good approach. Very good. Thank you, Oksana.
Thank you, Andrei.
Appreciate your expertise. Thank you for being with us. And here, let's switch back to Russian, because what can be better than a good, picturesque, and a very rich Russian language from a non-Russian native speaker. Любарта, здравствуй, рад тебя видеть.
Любарta, hello.
Слово.
Happy to see you. I give a word to Любарта Sartoja, Consular to the Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia in the Russian Federation. Please, you're welcome. Hello, dear colleagues. Good afternoon. Dear speakers, wonderful report of Oksana. I was so pleased because those vital problems of those issues, localization, what we have to discuss today, what was voiced over previously. Briefly, I would like to tell you about basic data of the country that we are working with. Please switch on my presentation. There are 4 slides. Briefly, I will look them through, and then we will move to crucial issues that we have. The countries of ASEAN, there are 10 countries, you all know them. 2 of those countries include contain half of population of Southeast Asia. And it has been proved that more than 300 million citizens of central region of Southeast Asia. For example, Indonesia takes 4th place if we talk about population, 270 million people. This data is official. In reality, I think we have 300 million. Malaysia is close to 300 million. The figures per capita are a little bit different. GDP in Indonesia is $4,000. The average age of these countries is not so high, and these countries are just beginning to develop, and the amount of its population will only grow. These countries are Muslim countries. 86% of citizens of Indonesia are Muslims. That is why the coefficient of birth is more than 2.2. So these countries in the future years their population will grow. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes. Okay, I have to say that countries that produce, we are targeted at involving our citizens and providing them job. We have a huge consumption inside of the country. And of course, some products we are interested to export all around the world. One of the very interesting regions is Russia. Recently, in summer, there was a big conference in Tatarstan. This is a big Islamic region of the Russian Federation, and this is a very big market for Indonesian products. So if we talk about localization, this is one of advantages. The good must be different if we want it to get on the shelf of retailer. It should be different from other goods, from other products, what we produce in Indonesia. So first of all, of course, oil and natural gas, textile, vehicles, electric, mining industry, concrete industry, chemical industry, rubber, and of course, tourism. We all know perfect resorts. In the main regions of agriculture, coconut, bird, beef, coconut, fish, coffee. The next slide, please. According to some analytics, Indonesian economy will soon become one of greatest economies in the world. Some forecast that we will come into top 6 largest economies in the world, and we have all conditions for that: big territory, big population, young people who are ready to manufacture, who are ready to produce, who are ready to mine, who are ready to attract new technologies, involve new technologies. There are 34 provinces on the territory of Indonesia. It's very important to highlight not only 34 provinces. These are more than 500 nationalities, a very multinational country. In Russia, there are more than 80 nationalities, if I'm right. In Indonesia, more than 500. I have already mentioned that the average age of the country is 29 years. This is very good. And by 2030, we forecast more than 100 million of medium class, citizens of medium class, if we talk about their salaries. This is a very big market for export from Russia, for import from Russia, and for export from Indonesia to Russia. If we talk about localization and those issues that have been mentioned by Oksana previously, if we talk about different fields of industry, I talk about the source, I talk about natural gas, oil, it's more or less clear. There are some regulations, Russian regulations, that have to be maintained, that have to be followed in order to enter Russian market. And I don't see big complications with this and big obstacles to attract private partner from Indonesia. But if we talk about different fields of industry, the mentality of Russians is more European That is why our attention, Russian attention, is targeted at Europe. If we talk about food preferences, about clothes preferences, so certain products and certain style of behavior, and vice versa. If we talk about Asian region, we have some difficulties. No, the credibility in Russia, the level of credibility in Russia to Indonesian products is not so good, is not so high, especially if we talk about new brands, about new products. That is why one of biggest issues is to conquer the understanding and promote Indonesian products at the Russian market, to localize them. Otherwise, I mean, in other words, to adapt these products at the Russian market. And at this moment, we have some difficulties that we face, that we have to cope with. That is the problems, the issues. That is why one of basic and best steps that have to be taken by producer who wants to enter at the Russian, to penetrate at the Russian market, is of course the marketing strategy and some preparatory steps in order before penetrating to the market. Besides researching the product, you have to take into account the taste preferences of Russians, the preferences of the package of this or that product. I'm sorry, I don't hear the speaker. Sorry. Прошу прощения, if we talk about food products, for example, coconut cream with a certain taste, this is what I want to talk about. So this is a pretty complicated point for a country that recently penetrated on the Russian market. That is why we need to develop the channel of credibility for our producers, for our manufacturers. So this is the problem that we have to discuss. Sorry, again, problems with connection. Cannot hear the speaker. I suppose we had certain problems with the connection. Colleagues, is it okay? Did you hear me? At the moment, yes, we hear you. Любarte, at the moment we hear you, you are back.
Мне кажется, он нас тоже будет плохо слышать.
I just switched off and reconnected.
Да.
Now we hear you. Любarte, thank you for presentation.
Можно закрыть демонстрацию презентации, я
can
полагаю.
Close the demonstration of presentation and move to discussion. Thank you, colleagues. A very important statement, in my point of view, is that when we talk about credibility, and in this term, localization, out of my experience, can become really bilateral, Because if the credibility of Indonesian partners to Russian partners increase, it becomes easier to localize bilaterally. People start working like stalkers to two different markets. From this point of view, your statement about your credibility is a key to this point. What about the forecast of the situation? Are we far from this mutual understanding in order to come to bilateral localization? Thank you. Markets are really pretty difficult. There are certain reasons why these markets are difficult. One of them, technical component, but what is more important is mental compliance of one to another. A simple example. 15 years ago, nobody knew Bali Island. And today, in the Russian Federation, Bali word is associated with paradise, with a beautiful lifestyle. And this is brand. This became a new brand, and somebody based on this brand can build its strategy to enter, to penetrate to the market with this or that product. If we talk about beauty or health products, the image of Bali will help to promote these products. Several years before the pandemic, in Moscow, there was a big Indonesian festival of trade, cultural festival. It was called Festival Number 1, the first festival in Moscow, a very important festival in Moscow. We had a lot of guests, and this is the field to remove this barrier, to remove the lack of knowledge about Indonesia, and of course, vice versa. If we talk about selling Russian goods in Indonesia, there will be the same story. I face it every day, telling about Russia, telling about what country it is on the level of simple knowledge. The level of our knowledge is really low, so we need to increase the culture, to improve the culture, and to improve awareness. These are the key targets that we have at the moment. Thank you so much. I give a floor to Olga Kamneva.
У Тамбовской области есть определенно накопленный потенциал, но хотелось бы сейчас видеть именно
right now,
которых
I'd
Ольга.
like to see what is potential is in and what Olga is ready to tell us about. Thank you so much. Thank you for the evening and thank you for the opportunity to speak here. Hopefully you'll help me with the presentation a bit. And today, Tambov region presents the only region of central Russia. It's great to be in company with Novosibirsk, Kaliningrad, and Krasnoyarsk regions, because these are regions that teach us something. This year I was to Novosibirsk, Kaliningrad region. Of course, there is something to learn. As for Tambov region, before proceeding to the presentation of cases, I agree with colleagues, with previous speakers, that a presence of concrete foreign investors, companies that chose Tambov region for localization is actually a trust and sign characterizing attractiveness of Tambov region and any region, in fact, when they have such choice. Before proceeding, I'd like to tell a bit about Tambov region. It's in central Russia. We are 500 kilometers from Moscow. Our region is quite small, with just 1 million of population, fully agro industry. 30% of our industry is in agro industry, and we generate production and work with products of this industry. We have attractive logistics because there is Michurinsk city. It is the only science city of our profile, of agro-industrial profile, and it is also railway hub with many railways going to the south. Our positions of Tambov region, confirming that it's attractive, are in the national rating of investment climate. In Russian Federation, they are in first 10 regions. For 10 years, we've been occupying the first place among all the Russian regions concerning ecology. And that is why all products grown and produced in our region are fully pure ecologically. In the Tambov region, there are 2 industrial parks, state parks, in register of Ministry of Industry and Commerce, and therefore we have all preferences of the federal level. And I would like to tell a bit about projects. The first project is Ashan company. I'll mention only huge ones of foreign investors working in our region. Ashan has built in 2015 production of meat with full cycle of creating meat products following the technology they had created previously, from producing meat to its final package. And after that, these products are brought to Ashan malls, not only in Tambov region, but in all other regions. 500,000 employees have been there, and there's been many investments as well. Another project I'd like to focus on is with the Danish company on producing pork meat. It's been enlarging, having more forces, and concerning first 2 projects and all other projects in our region, Tambov region supports them with all measures possible. Izero company is in our region for quite a long time. Once it was Soviet production of warmth isolation materials, and from 2016 this company has started this production as part of Singaben company groups, creating comfortable space for people to live. They keep modernizing production, and we should note that all production lines of new format are established following the standards of ecological production and limited impact on the environment. Next company is Tomac. It's one of the largest in the world producers of fast constructed houses from glued materials. Tomac production cluster in Tambov region is the largest exporter of these houses to European countries, and about 75% of production goes to the export. I'd like to note an exciting fact. There is a ring at the Red Square that is traditionally during New Year festival, and it's produced and constructed by Tomac company. And this year they enlarge its square 2 times. This company will also participate in constructions of the first channel, TV channel. We also have our Spanish investors also in agro-industrial complex. This is Tambov, Turkey. Everybody has seen an advertisement that the Tambov region is the most ecologically pure one, and there have been 1,000 employment places, and plans for enlargement of this production also exist. It's one of the largest investment projects working in the territory of Tambov region right now. And to sum up, I cannot avoid mentioning one fact concerning Tambov region. It does not directly touch upon investment attractability of our region, but it shows position of our region in the global space. By order of the President of the Russian Federation, 2023 is declared the year of 150 years since birth of Sergei Vasilyevich Rachmaninov, and preparations for this anniversary has already begun. Next year, 2023, the Jubilee year, will host many events, and by using this case, I invite you all to Tambov region. Please come and take part in our events. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Olga. The cultural aspect is the clue one, and
в том числе и
here, in order to bring my strategic view of localization, I give the floor to Mr. Poncha.
From the perspective of localization of the traditional and cross-cultural topics. So you're welcome. The floor is yours. Rinpoche, yes?
Rinpoche.
Can you hear me?
Very much.
Okay. Allow me to speak in English, if I may.
Please, please.
Well, I would like to thank the organizers for today's gathering. Firstly, I want to say that I accepted to participate in today's discussion with a little bit of skepticism. And the reason I was skeptic about this was because of the different backgrounds. Many of the previous speakers spoke on the issues of development of business, import, legalization, localization, etc., etc. And after listening to most of all previous speakers, I kind of understand why I was invited to speak and share the challenges that we face in today's gathering. Representative from Kaliningrad, representative from Novosibirsk, representative from Krasnoyarsk, and as well as Tambovskaya, all of you have spoken about the great prosperity and the development that has taken place. I simply rejoice in the prosperity in the field of business, economy, material development, as well as development of science that is taking place. Mr. Lear, author, touched upon very important and critical issues, which is the challenges and the complication of the legislation, the laws. There is many complications, many of the laws, I agree with him, that do not make sense to regular citizens. And at the same time, many of the laws and rules and regulations do not make sense to foreign investors as well. At the same time, I sometimes wonder, do the laws, rules, and regulations make sense to those who are coming up with these ideas and coming up with those who are proposing these laws and rules and regulations? There are challenges, yes. And also I agree with Oksana, where she mentions that, you know, Russia is a big country. It's a beautiful country. I totally agree. At the same time, she mentioned that Russia has its own specifics and it's unique. I truly agree with that. Specifics in a way that makes it foreigners or outsiders to deal with Russia in the field of political sphere as well as the economic sphere as well. Unique in a sense that it is too unique that it's really hard to find its own partners and match with beyond its borders. But at the same time, living in Russia since the early 90s, since the collapse of the Soviet Union, seeing the changes, political changes, economic changes, and also as well as the spiritual changes and the culture changes, it's I see nothing but positive outcome in the long run. My background is more on a spiritual basis and culture basis. I've been representing His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama here in Russia. And when I say that I'm representing him, is we're not representing him in a political field, but more on a spiritual and cultural field. One of the unique things that many of the Russians, and I'm sure that many of today's participants are not aware, is that Buddhism has been part of Russia's civilization for the last 400 years. It is not a new tradition. It's not a new philosophy. It's not a new science that came into effect in the last 20 to 30 years, but it is something that has existed for many centuries. Along with Buddhism being in existence in Russia, when you say Buddhism, we simply understand it as a religion. Sorry, my earphones is running out of battery, so I'm going to change to Okay, can you hear me?
All good? Yes, please.
Okay. So, in terms like when we speak about Buddhism, we simply associate it with religion. At the same time, Buddhism has its many different divisions, such as medicine, such as science, science of the mind, and also philosophy as well. And also in the field of religion, it has its own characters. So here in Russia, nowadays, cosmetics are becoming more popular. foreign cuisine is becoming more popular. And as many of these are becoming more popular, at the same time, Tibetan medicine is becoming very popular as well. Tibetan medicine in Russia is not something new. It has existed for over 400 years now. Tibetan medicine is a rich tradition, which in Russian, I believe they call Narodne Lichenie or Narodne Medicine. So I think over the course of years, due to the changes, due to the globalization, due to capitalization, one of the things that in terms of Tibetan medicine failed is to modernize and update and go along with the trends. It was kind of backwards. Nowadays, there are many clinics, new clinics. For example, in Moscow, there are about, as far as I know, there is about 13 Tibetan medicine clinics that exist. But their existence is very challenging. The Tibetan medicine in general is not officially recognized, but at the same time, it is widely used and widely accepted as a effective medical science. There are many challenges, and if we look at the why is it challenging to be accepted, is mainly because of the rules and regulations of the substances or ingredients. The Tibetan medicine does not consist of any chemicals. It is mostly consist of herbs, flowers, plants, etc., etc. According to the list of the, I forgot the department, what it's called, that controls, it's almost like the Food and Drug Administration of Russia. There's only about 60 to 70 plants or ingredients in the Tibetan medicine that is officially accepted or recognized. Beyond that, the rest of it is considered as narcotics or legal substances. Therefore, it has made it very challenging to be accepted in the mainstream medical or pharmaceutical field. But then again, I think there is a strong argument that we can, propose to the legislation or to the lawmakers, because before all these new rules and regulations were implemented, Tibetan medicine is something that has existed many, many centuries before all of these laws and legalizations and all these rules and regulations were implemented. Tibetan medicine derives from the tradition of India, China, Persia, a combination of all these traditions. This is how the Tibetan medicine came into effect. How it came to Russia is that Buddhism spread from Mongolia, from Tibet into Mongolia, and from Mongolia into Russia, mainly through the traditional Buddhist republics, which are Buryatia, Kalmykia, and Tuva. So, the Tibetan medical system has a long history here in Russia. In today's time, many of the previous speakers spoke about the prosperity, and I greatly admire that PepsiCo is doing well in Russia. Other companies such as IKEA and all of them are prospering in Russia, and many other foreign companies as well. It's a wonderful, and I think one of the points that I wanted to make is sometimes Russia fails to label or patent or recognize or support its own products. So we call it Tibetan medicine, but then again, it's not simply just Tibetan medicine, because when Tibetan medicine was introduced into Mongolia, the Mongolians also added their own kind of remedies to that to make it much more richer. Later, when that tradition came into Russia, also Buryats, Kalmyks, and Tuvas also added their own elements to enrich that particular tradition. And how it was enriched is because of the geographical location. For example, like the people of Kalmykia, they are in eastern territory by the Caspian Sea and the Volga River, coming from Western Mongolia and relocating by the Caspian Sea due to the differences in climate, the foods, and many other circumstances. They had to develop a new science or develop new remedies that became part of this rich Tibetan medical system. So I think here, Andrew and I, we have met and exchanged a few emails about the challenges. He himself is a perfect example. While he was stationed in India, due to certain health reasons, he had explored, different options for his improvement of his health. He came across Tibetan medicine, had made several visits to Tibetan clinics, and he was able to overcome the health issues that he had through Tibetan medicine. And after returning and coming into Moscow, looking for a Tibetan medical clinic or institution, there was not a proper legal or recognized institute or clinic that he could go and visit freely as he could in India. So I think here,
exactly, I can confirm that, highly esteemed Rinpoche. But here I would
Yes.
like to come up to, in a way, a conclusion, which is more about your spiritual expertise than about what we're basically discussing business-wise. So here you beautifully explained the way how Tibetan medicine and what we call Народная медицина evolved through that overlap of cultures, through that migration. But basically, we speak about the very same thing. And the basis of any exchange, is trust. And it was economically proven by basically Russian economists, a group of Russian economists backed by Vneshekonombank WebRF Corporation, that if level of trust in Russia is increased, the growth of GDP can be almost doubled in the long run. So, highly esteemed Rinpoche, my question is very simple, though complicated. How to increase the level of trust between Russians and non-Russians in order to get better localization, better economic results?
No, I think I think we live in a very competitive community or society now, and it's no secret that due to many circumstances, Russia has fallen behind in terms of technology, science, economy as well, and we are catching up. But the way that we are catching up is the method that we are using is too much self-centeredness, too much greed, too much inward thinking, not outward thinking. There has to be a balance. From a spiritual point of view. I'll give you an example. His Holiness the Dalai Lama usually mentions, we live in the 21st century. Development, material development, and economic development is a need. We're not against that. It's a need. That's how the trend is. But at the same time, we are failing spiritual or inner development. So this kind of helps spiritual, from my experience living in Russia and dealing with many cases of stress, mental issues, depression and sadness, and so and so on. It is a very clear sign that we are driven towards material development and not driven towards inner happiness. There's so many people that have good jobs, good salary, material wealth, and so on. But at the same time, they're so weak mentally, and they're struggling mentally as well. So I think here, I think I think here in Russia, and not only in Russia, I think it's a global trend now, is that what we are lacking is business ethics. Business ethics in terms of understanding from a spiritual person, and business ethics understanding from a businessman's point of view is completely different. It's different. From a spiritual point of view, if I may say in Russian, they say человеческие ценности не хватает.
Very true.
And I think that's very unfortunate, but I believe in evolutions. There will be a time that we will be successful in terms of spirituality, in terms of economy, in terms of many different fields. Then it will go in a circle. There will be like upada, then we will get up again, and the cycle will continue. So I wish everyone the best and prosperity. Every day I wake up in the morning and I concentrate. I send out my prayers and best wishes, no matter what religion, no matter what nationality, no matter what background they are. May all be happy and prosperity, have good health, and have success.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Highly Esteemed Rinpoche. So, better business ethics means better economy. Спасибо всем большое за участие в сессии. Я благодарим всем спикерам, экспертам.
Thank you to all experts and participants of the forum. I hope that this session will allow to improve our results, not only from the point of localization issue, but from implementation as well. Thank you so much.
Спасибо, коллеги, спасибо. Мы заканчиваем наш эфир на сегодняшний день. Второй зал тоже закончил. Московские экспортеры. Мы завершаем в целом первый день форума. Лингвистический партнер форума Job for Arabists мне сообщили, что некоторые коллеги подключились не к тому сайту и не слышали синхронно английский язык. Мы им вышлем обязательно запись эфира, потому что, на мой взгляд, секция получилась очень хорошая, мощная, разнообразная. Я думаю, что эта информация будет полезна для тех, кто по тем или иным причинам не смог послушать вашу секцию сегодня. Коллеги, спасибо за внимание. В ближайшие 2 дня мы еще с вами будем. У нас еще впереди 12 различных секций. Подключайтесь. Хорошего дня. Всем здоровья. До свидания.
Wish you all the best. Goodbye. Thank you. Goodbye.
Спасибо. Спасибо большое.
Что для вас важнее всего? Свобода выбора? Быть собой и дышать полной грудью? Свобода совершать открытия и достигать собственных вершин? Или это забота о том, кто рядом? Может, о тех, кто так далеко, но так близко к сердцу? Или это уверенность в завтрашнем дне? Сегодня, в условиях постоянно меняющегося мира, нам необходима надежная поддержка, которая появляется благодаря проверенным и честным партнерским отношениям. Даря уверенность, а самое главное, делая вас свободным, чтобы сохранить для вас самое ценное – время. Ваш партнер Камертон Плюс. 20 лет в сопровождении международных сделок.